Hi, my name is Crystal Parker. In today's video, I'm going to answer 5 frequently asked questions about self-publishing. I published my first book on September 19th, 2012, and since then I've published over a dozen titles. I think I'm somewhere around 16 or 17 right now. So over the course of the last 3 years, I've gained some insight into the world of self-publishing. Gained from practical experience, from doing things right, doing some things wrong, and reading a lot of message board comments, questions, and content that really helped inform my overall experience, which I hope to share for you and with you today. If you are thinking about getting into publishing, or you are about to already, I hope these 5 basic questions and answers help guide you on the path to self-publishing excellence. Alright, so question number 1, and probably the question I see asked almost the most frequently is it free? And the simplest and best answer is yes, self-publishing is free. You never have to pay to submit your book to a platform such as Amazon or Smashwords or Barnes & Noble. If anyone has told you that that's not the case, I would question their motives. And you may be, if someone has offered to do it for you, that's in a facilitator capacity. But if you're doing it yourself, you don't have to pay anything. It's actually really quite simple to submit your books to the online retailers such as Amazon and Smashwords and Barnes & Noble, which I'll go into in a later question. But it's free. In fact, a lot of self-publishing is quite inexpensive, or at least that has been my experience. I have spent very little money on publishing my own books, and that is because I do my own editing, I do my own covers, and I do my own promotion. I don't hire anyone to do any work for me. I don't outsource the work. I use the skills and talents that I already have to do everything from preconception of the story until promoting it once it is published. And I would argue quite fervently that you can do this entire process, if not for free, then pretty darn close for dollars. So yeah, totally free to publish. You don't need to pay Amazon. They have enough money. I mean, that's really quite silly. I know that a lot of people are confused about that, so I'll say it again. No, you do not have to pay anything to publish. That's called vanity publishing, and that's not what self-publishing is about. Question number 2, what program should I use to write my book? That's really going to come down to personal preference. If you have a word processing suite that came with your computer, such as Apple iWorks, and you have Pages, or if you have a PC, you might have Microsoft Office and Microsoft Word along with that. If you don't have a word processing suite, or you maybe can't afford one, you can absolutely write your book in Google Docs, which is free with your Google account. You don't need to spend money on an expensive software suite in order to write a book. Google Drive isn't going to have, Google Docs is not going to have all of the bells and whistles of, say, Microsoft Word or even Apple Pages, but you can get the basic content done and fairly easily, competently, and wonderfully without having to spend money. That being said, the Apple programs come free when you buy an Apple computer, or if you have if you have an iPad, and you can even get a Microsoft 365 subscription for something like $10 a month. So if you don't want to use Google Drive and you don't want to spend a lot of money, but you need a word processing suite in order to write your book, there are really cheap alternatives, and I recommend you take a look into them and see what your options are. Ultimately, you want to write your book in whatever is most comfortable for you, whether that's with pencil and paper in the privacy of your own home, or on Apple Pages in a laptop at Starbucks, which I sometimes do. As long as the program can either save or export into a file extension that is accepted by Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Smashwords, you're fine. I would even recommend, if you're using a program like Apple Pages, to not only save your file. You cannot upload a Pages file to Amazon, but what you can do is export your file to the EPUB extension and upload that, which I wholeheartedly recommend because it takes care of a lot of the fine details of the book format for you. Question number 3. How long should my book be? This is a question that kind of has a funny answer, and the answer is it should be as long as you need it to be. There is really no right or wrong answer for how long your book should be. It's however long it takes for you to tell the best version of your story. Now, there are certain guidelines you can follow depending on the type of book you're going for. So, for example, if you are writing a straight novel, that is typically between 50,000 words and epic word lengths of like 150,000 words if you are so verbose. If you're looking to write something shorter, that is most likely going to be a novella, and that is typically around 25,000 words, maybe 40,000, between that range. Short stories are even shorter, around 10,000 words, and flash fiction is typically a lot shorter, in a couple hundred words or a couple thousand. So when it comes to plotting out your story and figuring out the benchmarks of telling that story, use the novella or novel or short story word count guidelines to kind of help shape where your story is going to go, and that can help you quite a bit. But essentially, it is as long as you need it to be. You can write huge volumes like George R.R. Martin or J.K. Rowling, or you can write really short stories. It really is your preference, and however long it takes to tell your story is how long it takes to tell your story. Number 4, how do I get my book on Amazon? Another answer that is kind of silly. It is literally so easy. You just upload a file. Now there's quite a bit more that goes into it than that, but the minutia of categories and keywords and subtitles and all of that fine detail is something that can be addressed later. It's not particularly germane to the conversation that you and I are having right now, but it literally is just uploading your file, your .doc file or your .epub file. Amazon takes care of the rest. It takes care of converting your file into the file type that it uses in order to put books on Kindles or on Kindle reading software. And that's pretty much it. You literally, when you're submitting your book, you fill out all the details, you click the button that says choose file, find the file on your computer, select it, hit OK, and upload, and it's like magic. It does everything else for you. So there's no special process you have to go through in terms of like packaging your file in a special container and like shipping it off to Amazon headquarters, wherever they may be. It's nothing like that. You do it from your home computer. It's really, 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 really simple. And question number 5 is probably the question I see the most often, or the subject that I view the most questions about, and that is, how much money will I make? That answer, there is no answer. It is completely different for every person, for every genre, for every experience. There are self-published authors who have made in excess of millions of dollars. There are some who make a few thousand a month, maybe even a few $100,000 a month. The more typical experience is making probably less than $100 a month, maybe a little bit more. You have those great success stories of people making a lot of money, and you have just as many, in fact, you have way more stories of people who are making maybe $20 or $30 a month. and that's okay. I'm going to assume that your reasoning for going into self-publishing is to get your story into the hands of readers across the world and not necessarily to make money. Although if you're trying to make money, I don't hold that against you. You know, I hope your hustle is strong. But how much money will I make? That's going to depend largely on your royalty rate. And I'm speaking now just about Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. You have two options for a royalty rate. You have 35% and you have 70%. What you choose is going to depend almost exclusively on how much you're going to charge for your story. Now, if you are planning to charge between 99 cents and $2.98, your only option is to select the 35% royalty rate. And at 99 cents, at a 35% royalty rate, you are going to make about 30 cents to 35 cents per book sale. At $1.99, you're going to make about 70 cents. Now, if you are pricing your book at $2.99 or higher, you have the choice between the 35% royalty rate and the 70% royalty rate. I would recommend, and it seems like common sense, to pick the 70% royalty rate option. You're going to get the most money from that, and from there it's really just pricing your book in a way, at a price point that you feel is adequate for your content, that you feel will sell, and selecting the 70% royalty rate. So for example, books priced at $2.99 will earn about $1 at the 70% royalty rate, which isn't bad. It might be a little more depending on the size of your book. And the size of your book is the caveat of the royalty rate that you choose. So let's say you haven't written fiction, you've actually written or produced a coffee table book or some sort of book that is media heavy, such as an illustrated children's book or a book of photography. If it weighs more in terms of download weight, that is going to eat more of your final royalty amount. And in that case, I would recommend that you select the 35% royalty rate because the cost to download your book from whomever buys it is going to eat a large chunk of the total cost of your book. So say your book is $4.99 and you have a large coffee table book that is larger to download and you have the 35% royalty rate, you have that much more space that's going to get eaten up by your download. If that doesn't make sense, let me know. I'll try and explain it better in the comments. But that is essentially as I understand it and the best way I can think to describe it. Generally speaking, you're probably going to be pricing your book at around the $2.99 to $4.99 range and selecting the 70% royalty rate. That seems to be the sweet spot. For me personally, I price most of my books at $2.99 with few exceptions. For longer books that are new releases, I tend to charge $1 or $2 more. It just really depends on that. Essentially, you can charge whatever you want for your book, but if you're charging $9.99 or more for an ebook, you might not sell any copies. And don't be surprised if you don't, because that's really expensive for an ebook. And that's essentially how you make money off of Amazon, that they take their portion of the other side of your royalty rate, you take your royalty rate, and that's how you get paid, and that's how Amazon gets paid. That's why it's free to publish on Amazon. I hope that answers 5 questions for you adequately and in a linear fashion. I sometimes have a difficult time speaking in a linear fashion because there's just a lot going on up here. But I hope that answers the questions, and there are so many other questions. There are so many other questions that newbies and people who are interested in publishing ask. In no way did I cover all of them today. There are so many more I could get to, and if you like this video and you have questions or would like me to address something else, please be sure to leave it in a comment below. Perhaps that could be something I can address in a subsequent video down the road, or just give you a quick answer in the comment section. and hopefully get you on your way to publishing wonderful bliss. That's gonna do it. Please be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a nice comment in the comments section below and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!